I wonder why.
since having a child. So, what episode is this? 107.
That's what it looked like on the invite. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, 107. So thanks for watching. Anyone who watches this, and there's no one on right now, but we got Dan with us, and it looks like Jean-Pierre's joining.
There he is.
Hey, Jean-Pierre, what's up, man?
Guys, how are you?
Good.
All right. How about yourself? Congratulations, Mike. Again, if I haven't gotten a chance to say that, congratulations again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Right before the show started, she woke up and was screaming in the background. Dan was able to hear that. So she was just down for a good hour and a half nap, and now she's back up to eat again. So that's all she does. She's an eating, pooping, sleeping machine.
That's right. It's the way it goes. Yep.
At least for a while now.
Yeah.
But we
let me get my beer. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it. We while we're letting him get his beer, we're doing dry hopped beers. This one is freaking beautiful looking, actually. What I've got here is a dry hopped Belgian style ale called the Prairie Hop from Prairie Artisan Ales out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which we were just discussing before the show started. I always forget that these guys are from Tulsa because I always confuse them with the names, like we were saying, Perennial, and there's a Transient Artisan Ales, and so I don't know. But Prairie is amazing. They do not ever fail to put out anything amazing, and this one looks and smells great. And I can definitely smell a little bit of the Belgian yeast in here.
Mm-hmm.
But the hop's very dominant in the aroma.
Yeah.
And again, this look at this head. It's just sticking around here, and it's lacing up and down this glass. It's beautiful.
It is.
Great looking beer. It's 8% ABV, and I bought this literally like the week we were supposed to be doing the dry hopped episode that was put on hold for like 3 or 4 weeks. But I don't see a bottled on date or anything like that. I thought I did, but it's a weird code that I don't quite understand, so it might be something that they use to date theirs, but I can't really decipher what's going on. So
yeah, you might have to go to the site. I know the Bell's has got a numerical system where it has nothing to do with the actual date on the bottle. It's,
oh, really?
By a lot number or something like that.
Bell, I can't believe Bell's is 30 years old. They just hit their 30th anniversary. I saw their beer was released.
Yeah, that's right. They had a big party over last weekend, as a matter of fact. I didn't go, but
looks like they did nice. Like an imperial stout. Looked good. I didn't hear anybody's opinion of it yet, but it looked really good.
No, I was reading about it. It sounded like it was a kind of the recipe was harkening back to one of their standbys for a long time now, the Expedition Stout. Ooh. So it's kind of a callback to that.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's a great beer that ages well if you put those in the closet for a bit. I've got, I think, 1 or 2 at least.
Yeah. No, is it their Third Coast Ale? Mm-hmm. That is also, I think that's their barley wine or an old ale. I think it's a barley wine. That's another one that ages out really well. Is
that really a barley wine? I didn't know that.
I think so. It's a strong ale of some kind, but I've had one for that sat in the basement for 3 years and came out tasting great. So
I'm very happy with this beer, by the way. I highly recommend you trying this one. It's nice. It feels great too. It's got a great crisp dryness to it. This is a great sit outside on a nice sunny day. It doesn't even have to be hot out, but a sunny day, and you'll enjoy this one. It's gorgeous.
I was gonna say that was today.
Oof. I know, right? I barely got to see that and enjoy it. It was 2 walks with my dog, but that's about it. But yeah, this beer is awesome. What you got there, Jean-Pierre?
I got Pilsner Urquell tonight.
Nice.
So I'm trying that. I like if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I pronounce it Lagantis. Others say Lagantis, or however. I like their
Lagunitas?
Lagunitas.
Lagunitas, yep.
Yes, I like their Czech style Pilsner.
I love their Czech style.
Right.
I've never had that.
But this one is pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because Pilsner Urquell they released a lot of their they released like some kind of a new can for that beer that you've got there too.
Really? Really?
Yeah. And from what I hear, everyone that's had it in the cans, they're like it's night and day. It's really good. So
Right.
I haven't picked it up, but I've seen it at Binny's, our chain out here in Chicago, and
Yeah.
I
I got this at Rouse's here in Mobile, and it was a reasonably priced beer. I guess $8.99 if you want to call it for a 6-pack, but
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah, but yeah, I agree though. I love that Czech style pils from Lagunitas.
It's very good. I like this. Yeah, I like that even more. But this is pretty reasonably priced too. $8.99 for this one.
Nice. How about you, Dan? What you got over there?
Well, I got a new one on the block. This is the latest in the Hero IPA series by Revolution here in Chicago. This is Mosaic Hero IPA, and this is a good one. It is, as no one will be surprised to hear, done with Mosaic hops. It's bittered with Warrior. It's Mosaic and the late kettle editions, and they dry hop with Mosaic. And it sounds like there's some, I think it's Zythos is in there as well. Good stuff. And it's very basic on the malt bill. It's basically pale ale malt, like one other malt for body, and then golden oats to give it a really silky mouthfeel. And it does. It's tasting good. But, it actually looks like a Pilsner. This thing is like dead gold. It's just
That's a nice glass right there, my friend.
Thank you. Yep, that's my birthday present of a couple of years ago, and very happy for them. But
yeah,
nice, man.
Yeah, it's tasting and smelling good. And I mean, that's really what dry hopping is all about. Is it's getting the aromatics of the hops so that it kind of fills up your nose, but also fills up your palate. Because so much of what you taste is what you smell. So that's the theory. Just dump it in late.
Yeah, and that one just came out too, because I know Citra Hero was just out last month. I think I knew this one was coming. I didn't see it in the store yet, so I was just actually on the Revolution site. I'm a little bit of a fan. If you have never heard me talk about them.
Well, it's not like you got married there or anything.
No, not at all. Actually, when we got married there, they had the Jukebox Hero. Pretty much what I drank all that night, and that was their black IPA, and that one's amazing.
I love that beer. That is my go-to black IPA for sure. I mean, there's some others out there like what is Stone's? I don't know if they still have it anymore either. The it's something self-righteous. I forget what the first part of that title is, but it's just fantastic stuff.
Yeah, my wife
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say my wife and I just had an Imperial Black IPA. Now I can't remember who it was from. I think I put it down and tapped, so I have to pull it up really quick. But man, I was just realizing I love
that. Was the Pipeworks
Black Tuna.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
that was with someone else, wasn't it? With Left Hand or
Pipeworks and Four Hands. Out of St. Louis, and man, that beer was awesome. It was really, really good. But saw Skylar jumping on. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Skylar, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Doing good.
I mean, good seeing you again. Excuse me.
What you up to, man? How you been these last few weeks?
Man, I've been busy at work. How have you been? How's the kid?
I've been busy at home.
A little bit.
And my first week back in the office, too. I worked from home all day last week, and it was nice being around, but it was a little rough trying to have to leave yesterday morning to go to the office for the first time. But it's good. She had a really good day today, actually, so we're nice and a calm household. We're just dealing with the regularness of a baby instead of we had a couple rough nights, but otherwise it's been great. No complaints. It's all good. But yeah, we were just talking about our dry hop beers, and did you end up grabbing one yourself, or what were you drinking tonight?
Yes, I did. I had the wife go to the store and find me something I haven't had before, and she provided me with this. It's actually a Canadian beer. Check out that label. I love it.
I like the label right there. With the bike with the girl on the bike. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really cool. It's called Red Betty Imperial IPA. It's got 90 IBUs. It's 9% alcohol by volume, and it's been dry hopped with whole leaf hops from Yakima Valley. And then it uses Maris Otter malt, which I'm a huge fan of.
Drinking beer. Somebody hit that.
That's funny. I was just one of the people I follow on Instagram was beer hunting, and they have a Maris Otter T-shirt that they're selling now. It just it just says Maris Otter on it. It's hilarious. But it's getting pretty popular.
A silencer, it would have had a lime or something on either side of that window.
But
what?
Saw my car. It's ordered for my car. Right?
So what's the brewery that beer?
Go.
I didn't know you could do that. I thought I had to do that.
Nice. Doesn't sound.
That's Central City Brewery. It's out in British Columbia.
Oh, okay. Because it looks like they make their own bottles, or they have their name embossed on that bottle too. Because I saw City something on there.
Yeah, I had never seen. I'd never even heard of this brewery before, and I guess I don't see a lot of Canadian craft beer. So,
I've noticed recently, Skylar, that in my area, I've seen a lot of beers from Canada. Beers that are, I don't know what the name of the brewery is, but I've been noticing this one package store I go to is right on Spring Hill and Mobile Street in my town, and I've seen a lot of these Canadian stouts, whatever, and I don't know the name of this brewery, but they're about reasonably priced, about $3.99, $5.99, $7.99. Depends on what style of beer you're getting. You know.
Is it Bombers usually?
It possibly could be them.
I'm trying to think of who. The name is escaping me. I can picture some of the bottles and some of the names I'm thinking of.
It has the Canadian flag on it. You know, the sign of the Canadian. You know.
Yeah, I'd never seen that. I mean, when I think Canadian craft beer, I think Unibrew. Like
that's what I was trying to think of. Thank you.
It could be them.
I was trying to think of Tres Pistoles and what's the
Fin du Monde.
Yeah, Fin du Monde is it's amazing. So nice, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, this one's amazing. But yeah, before you jumped on, Skylar,
Okay, I'll come
John here was talking about Lagunitas, which falls into the news in the last couple of weeks since we've been off.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So,
well, wait a minute. Just to kind of rewind 1 second. 6 hours ago, the big bomb hit. I don't know if anybody else.
Oh yes. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I was going to say let Mike go on with that, but I was going to say this whole week has been like that.
Yeah,
this
has
been
been
a weird week.
It's been crazy between Stone, their CEO, Greg Cook stepping down, and they're gonna be filling his position as that, and I guess he's gonna stay on the board, but he wants to bring in someone with a little bit more, I don't know, different vision and business experience, and but yeah, Lagunitas sold half their shares to was it Heineken, right?
No, that was was it Heineken or was it SAB Miller? Was it Miller Coors or?
Nah, I thought it was Heineken, but
No, you might be right. No, because there was another one that went to SAB Miller. Oh, that was the one in California. That's why it's getting confusing. It's like flying all over the place.
Lagunitas sold 50% to Heineken, so they're going to be enjoying their global distribution. Now, my thing with the whole Lagunitas thing, I don't see how that could affect pricing if that's anybody's concern, because Lagunitas has always priced their beer really, really low. It's usually one of the cheapest bombers. You can buy a Lagunitas beer and it's not going to hurt your wallet. So that's always been cool. The thing with selling that much over to Heineken is, Tony McGee. He's been kind of the one guy in the industry who, anytime someone sells their brewery, he's like, "Oh, you guys are a piece of shit," blah blah blah. You sold out, he's going to be the first person to say something. And how I was like, oh man, it's all craft. And I mean, I haven't heard him say anything since the purchase. So I don't know, but I don't know. It seems a little hypocritical.
I know he's spoken, and I haven't read anything as far as his statements that he's made since, and I know he's done it. But the thing I remember just before this came out in the news was that he was talking about some other acquisitions that had happened. I think it might have been Goose Island or something like that on a podcast that I listened to. There's a really good craft beer store here in Chicago called the Craft Beer Temple, and the owner of it is a certified Cicerone. His name's Chris Quinn, and he's been hosting like a local radio show here in Chicago on like Lupin Radio, I think it's called, but they produce it as a podcast on iTunes after they air it live. And a couple weeks ago, I listened to a past episode where he had Tony McGee on with a couple other, beer folk, and they were talking about a couple of the acquisitions. And he was talking about how, like, he goes, I've gone to dinner with these other guys. I've, eaten the steaks, and I've shared beers with them. But I tell them in the end, I'd rather, pull my eyes out or something like that. He's like, I just won't do it. He's like, that's not saying I am not having conversations with other people about different types of agreements. It was funny because he made a hint to it that something might be happening, but he didn't say it was, and he didn't say what it was. But it was literally like 2 days after I listened to the podcast, and it was like a couple weeks old. So I don't know what the date was that he actually said these things, but it was not that long ago. And then the news came out, and I was like, son of a bitch, that's what he was talking about. That's what he was referring to. And it's gonna happen. I get it. He's a big, he's got a big voice when it comes to Twitter, and whenever anyone does anything in the craft beer industry, he's the first one to say something. But it's a different game than it was, back 5 years ago even, so whatever you might have said back then it might not even be relevant anymore. So I get it, a lot of people call him a hypocrite, but
that's a scary thing. I mean, as of today, it's all changed, potentially. On the 11th, SAB Miller bought out St. Archer in San Diego. 6 hours ago, AB InBev announced its intentions to pick up MAB Miller Coors, to basically consolidate everything that's left of macro brew in the United States into one giant global concern. I mean, that...
Now, does that just include what's here in the United States, or does that also include...
Oh, no, that's everywhere.
Global.
Okay, that's
global. That's global.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure we noted that, because that's bigger than that's huge.
But that's the whole thing. I mean, but yeah, the impact that it has locally is going to be enormous. I mean,
is it?
Well, I think it is, and I'll tell you why. It's officially putting everyone on notice that there is one.
But it's not official yet. It's not official yet.
Well,
right?
no, and it's not official in the sense that it's not even a deal. It's basically they announced their intention to make a deal, and they basically said, okay, SAB Miller, go ahead and this is our intention. We don't want to be, this isn't hostile. We want to do this amicably. So why don't you write up terms about how you see this being a great idea for both of us, and we can start discussions from there. So it was actually very amicable. But if you look at it from a more global perspective, not just, on the basis of these two huge Goliaths being global already and more so after, potentially, but in terms of their impact on other markets, I mean, and it is going to have an impact. It's going to have to.
Politically, with the, it's going to increase their lobbying power.
Absolutely.
Two separate companies, it's going to be one big thing. If antitrust laws don't get in the way of this acquisition, we might as well not have antitrust laws, because that would just be such a huge, like, craft beer is getting up there, but it's still nowhere near as big as either of these companies. companies. You bring in these big companies.
It's chipping away, Skylar. It's chipping away at the big boys, BMC. But like you said, it's not nowhere near close. But my thing is, with this thing is it? Are they trying to get into certain places around the globe, like Africa, that part of the continent?
They're already there.
Oh yeah, I was going to say,
that's what I thought, you know.
Because I want to say that the people who brought Miller were an African company,
right?
Brewery concern. But I think that even more than that, if you're looking at it purely from a strategic standpoint, and that's a big one, is being getting into other markets like that. But another big one is your capacity to distribute. And the distribution laws at the moment are such, and Anheuser-Busch has traditionally gone into distribution in such a way that part of their strategic, sort of goal setting is to dominate market share through distribution. And if you take another huge chunk like Miller Coors and all their distribution that they possibly own, and you add all that up, you begin to see a real capacity to squeeze out shelf space to smaller competitors like craft brewers. I mean, will it happen? I don't know. But I think that it's a looming issue, and it's something that you don't just shake off. It's something that you go, it could happen, it might not, but you better be aware of it.
I agree. I don't think you're what you say about like shaking shelf space and all that stuff. I think that was a huge concern. We've all seen Beer Wars probably, and
right.
We've seen that, but like craft beer is now becoming more. The fact that they're purchasing all these craft breweries says a lot more. That makes a bigger statement to me than it does this whole other deal that they're wanting to do, because they tried to do the from the outside attack on craft beer. They want to try to get as big as they can, but that doesn't stop the increase of popularity in craft beer, and it doesn't stop people from wanting better beer and wanting to, spending a little bit extra money on something that's a better quality product. And so they know that is going to infiltrate from within, and they're purchasing these brands that are already well established, creating quality products that people like buying. So I think that's more of their way of taking more control, because
right.
It's a huge deal, and I'm not brushing off the possibility if that happens. I think that is a big threat when it comes to political power and being able to lobby with more money to influence law, and that's huge. But I think that there's enough of a community with craft beer that I know my kid's never going to drink that stuff unless it's in college because they have no money, Right. Otherwise, they're never going to see me drink that stuff. They're always going to hear me talk shit about it when they get old enough. And, and I think that's how it's going to be with most craft beer fans and their children. They're not going to learn, to drink the swill that people have, it's been jammed down their throats with commercials and all that stuff. And it's like...
Oh, and I'm not implying that. I don't think that that's what distribution does for you. I think what distribution does is that if you do acquire craft brands, it allows you to have supremacy with the craft brands, and it also allows you to isolate smaller competitors and limit their distribution footprint in such a way that you become limited to your immediate localized area. Now, whether they do that or not, I'm not saying they will, but I'd say there are logical tactical implications that you could extrapolate from this, and they might work, they might not. I don't know.
It's I think you have a point there with the fact of distribution, because on the outside, what it does to the consumers is very little, really. You can compare this to, say, the housing bubble bursting back in 2005. Suddenly all those banks started buying one another, and now you've got Bank of America, Chase, and all this, and Wachovia and Washington Mutual and all that. They're no more.
Same thing with the airline industry, kind of same thing too.
Same thing.
God, yeah, absolutely.
It's less of a thing for the consumer, more of a thing that has to do with distribution, and that's that's really my only worry. Mike's correct, because there's eventually has to just be one company where it's like, here's all the swill that like no one wants to drink, but if they're like hipster, or if you don't want to spend a lot of money, it's like Pabst has been doing this for decades now.
Yeah, you're right. No advertising whatsoever. You're right.
Local historical breweries that were able to either survive Prohibition or started directly after Prohibition, and they've become quite a competitor in the market. So yeah, I can see this kind of subset of beer becoming their own thing. Where it's going to hurt is distribution, like Dan is saying. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to affect things, but I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, I was going to say that those are business decisions that are going to happen at some point that we don't know yet.
Right, because there's a lot of stuff going on down here in Texas where we're really, really fighting hard against the kind of laws that they're able to lobby around here. So it's a bit scary when a one company gets that large, just because of the amount of power you have over a local political environment.
Well, and it's also interesting because you mentioned the distribution aspect of it, but a lot of the smaller breweries that are popping up, at least in the Midwest and specifically Chicago, they self-distribute, and they deliver their own stuff, and they're they're doing all right with it. I was just trying to look up because I know there's a distributor here in Chicago that is, I believe.
Oh yeah, Two Brothers started it up.
Yeah, so Two Brothers Brewing in Warrenville, Illinois. They started. Is it Windy City Distribution?
It might be. I forget the name of it. No, and I agree, and that's a big thing. But what I'm sort of looking at more is, let's say you want to get out of Chicago.
I got you. I understand. Yeah, I understand.
I mean, that's where it becomes more of a kind of.
But that's the thing. Not every brewery wants to do that.
Oh, no.
There's so many little craft breweries that have no intention and no desire to leave their metropolitan area or the state even. And that's great, and they can do well doing it.
Self-distribution.
But if you want to be founders,
coming from a brewery that self-distributes, I will say it's an excellent alternative to other, signing up with a big distributor. But there are a lot of limitations depending on where you live on what a self-distributor can and cannot do compared to a larger distributor. And because of this, you are seeing more craft distributors, independent distributors that aren't the big guys. And so they have kind of an interesting limited regional distribution range. Which can also be compared to banking by, it's like, okay, do you sign up with a bank or a credit union? They're like the credit unions of distributors.
Oh, there you go.
So it's an interesting climate, and either way, it is creating jobs. Jobs are being made.
At the end of the day, guys, that's basically what it's all about. It's all about distribution, would you say?
Yeah, some of it.
Yeah. I mean, partially. It's part of the. It's definitely part of the puzzle.
No, I would say it's a big part, but there's never ever going to be any one part that makes everything else obsolete. And there's always going to be stuff you gotta figure out along the way, because everything always changes too. Right. Oh man, that fan.
I wasn't sure what you were talking about at first.
The ceiling fan. Oh man, someone's got him on the run.
Yes. My little girl right now is on the run. So guys, listen, if I can meet y'all another week, I will do this again, okay?
Awesome. You'll be on the invite all the time, man.
No problem. All right. All right. Bye.
Good night.
That's gonna be me. Man. That's gonna be me very soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you poor man.
I'm like, Mike, what are you doing?
Posting on the Mojave, like, I'm in the hallway, I'm in the basement, whatever.
No, I mean, yeah, this is why the 12 and 15-year-old is a good thing. So.
Yeah, I'll bet. Except every once in a while, I do see you like.
Yeah.
I'll be there too soon.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. There are no safe harbors after this.
No. So yeah, it's been interesting in beer news, especially California. It's been kind of getting crazy over there. What do you guys take from? Oh, you know what? I did see one interesting thing was that the Brew Dogs made a declaration, I think on Twitter or somewhere, that they refuse to serve Lagunitas beers in any of their pubs, their locations.
Wow, nice. Well, good for them. I mean,
they're huge proponents of craft beer, obviously, and they make a lot of political statements with their outrageous little stunts and stuff. And I love them, man. I got nothing against Brew Dogs at all. I wish I was able to try some of their beers as fresh as possible because I know that they are supposed to be really good, and I just haven't had one that blows me away. But I love their everything they do. I love their show, and all, I think I mentioned on the show probably like a month or two ago, but I didn't realize that. I remember learning that James Watts is actually a certified Cicerone as well. He's actually one of like a small handful of the master Cicerones, the highest,
I think they're 10.
Yeah, he's one of them. So it's kind of crazy. I didn't realize that he is that, that high as far as like knowledge in beer. So, you got to respect him, but it's interesting that someone would draw a line like that. It's kind of crazy because in that same podcast that I was talking about before, Tony McGee was talking about how it's great how craft beer is a nice little community and everyone helps each other out when they can, and there's nobody like going after anyone except for the big guys. But he made a comparison that he goes, there's a stretch of highway near us in Petaluma, and every once in a while you'll see a carcass of an animal that gets hit, and eventually you'll see a bunch of turkey vultures going at that piece of meat, and at first they're kind of cool, they're all nice and copacetic, and they all eat their little spot, but eventually when the meat starts to die up a little bit and there's not as much for everyone, they start getting a little bit more antsy and they start getting a little bit more violent towards each other. He's like, that's what's going to happen in this industry. It's going to dry up as far as how many of us can be around, and we're going to have to start not being as friendly with one another. And he makes a good point. I don't see it yet, and I don't know when that's going to be, but he's got to be kind of right. If you ask me, I kind of see it having to go that way. It's business, and
well, no, that's what it comes down to. Ultimately, it is a business, and it's not a community. And I think that is where craft beer does put itself at a disadvantage, maybe in the long run, in terms of figuring itself out culturally. And I think that there's a good reason that started. It was a lot of homebrewers, and it was a lot of people collaborating to get these adventures off the ground because they were tiny, and you had to have help. You had to help each other out in order to get these things going.
Yeah.
And that kind of carried through, and I think it continues to carry through, and I think that it will to a certain extent. I mean, even if you look at big business, I mean, you look at the Grangers of the world, you look at the the Fortune 500 companies all over the planet, and there are good corporate citizens, there are bad corporate citizens. There are companies that help each other out. There are companies who are strictly out for the buck and screw you. And it's always been the way business has been. We tend to sort of, especially when things get larger, look at people who get larger as being more bullies. But I think that's because we see bullies as being big people, and not all big guys, strong guys, or gals, or whatever, are bullies. They happen to be strong, but it's ultimately their philosophy and their character that carries through. So, yeah, I think that you are going to see a divide. I don't think you're going to see vultures fighting over the carcass all the time. You will see some of that. But I think that what you will also see are the people who are looking at the vultures going, I do not want to be fighting over that carcass, man. you and me, come on, let's set up the fort over here, and it's going to kind of go both ways, and that will kind of define your corporate citizenhood, really.
I mean, and you made a pretty good comparison over a text message that we shared this week when you were saying how, Starbucks started off as a small little shop, and now, there's two on almost every corner now, and a lot of people see that as a bad thing, and they see them as like a huge evil company, which I don't see it that as, and you might not like their coffee, you might. I do, and I'll shop at Starbucks every once in a while, but I do love the smaller shops around the city. There's so many different coffee roasteries now, and they're not at each other's throats, and I think that translates to the beer world as well. They can both exist, and they can both succeed in a different way. It's just everyone's got a different plan, and not everyone wants to be a Starbucks,
Right. Well, and even if you do, at a certain point, when does that Starbucks transition from being the good guy to the bad guy? When do they at what magic number do they stop being the cafe and start being corporate coffee?
Well, that's the thin line of what the corporate environment looks like and what they do with the big profits that they have. Now, Starbucks, I mean, this is just my opinion. Yes, they're big. They're really big. But they also treat their employees extremely fairly.
That's what I've heard too.
Very well. They give them very good benefits. They're not, let's say on the opposite end, you have a company like McDonald's. Their higher executives get most of the money, and they're not known for treating their workers very well or hiring competent employees. You can be of a similar size, but it's how do you run the business? Do you run it off of a stance that says, hey, we can make this a big thing and still treat people correctly, or do we make it a big thing and do it for making a lot of money and all this? My personal theory is always like, how big is big enough? Like, if I were to own a business, if I were to own a brewery, how large would I take it? How much money is enough money?
Yeah.
And that's something I just don't know yet. I've never been in a position to own my own business. I've never had enough money to do it. So.
But I think you've been alive long enough to know the answer, and I think the answer is that you've got to be self-sustaining, and you've got to be at a point where you can endure. It's not necessarily about being static. It's not about being in one place, because you will always have upturns and downturns, and your business will wax poorly and better over time. But throughout all of that, you've got to have a commitment to making sure that everybody's taken care of, and that you've got the business taken care of. You've got to almost consider it a matter of being a part of your family, not just the employees, but the business itself, because that's something that has its own life cycle and its own concerns. And you will have to fire employees at some point, or you'll have to hire people, or at a certain point, you'll have to be a bad guy on the end of hiring and firing people, and you'll have to be a bad guy in terms of, telling your business, I'm going to hold on to people when I shouldn't. But you've got to have the balance, or else either the business will die and the employees all go away, or the employees stop showing up and people start ratting you out because you turned into a dick.
Well, there's also... Go ahead, Skyler.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's always that... there can't be good without evil, and there can't be evil without good. And I think it all comes down to public perception of how the companies are. Like, look at Google. Google's big as shit. Hell, we're using a Google product right now.
Hi, Google.
Google. But
Thanks for screwing us every time they can't get the show on Google.
Don't do that. The bots will find us.
And so there's good and bad, but we generally see them as good because they're innovating and they're doing things, and they make our life overall better. Yeah. But that could all change. They could all piss us off one day, and suddenly Google Hangouts isn't working, and
well, it's also with the example of Starbucks again. I think a lot of anyone who has any sort of negative things to say about them is probably because you know they may have they may have pushed some other businesses out, that they might do their market research and find this is a good place for us to put another location. They do it, and that puts another business out that might have kind of been overveiled or veiled over by another product that another business does or something. It might be another coffee place, but it could be just like breakfast food or something like that, and they unintentionally bump somebody out, and that makes them look pretty evil. Might not have been their intention, it might have been, but regardless, they were just doing what they thought was good for their own business, and now people will talk and say negative things about them, and I think it's just also different now in today's age where you've never seen a Starbucks commercial on television or anything like that. You still see McDonald's, but they came from that age of needing to be on television or radio advertising, and they continue to do it. They've got the money to do so. But with the internet now, you don't have to do that, and people's word of mouth is kind of huge when it comes to the life of a business and the death of a business.
I was going to say, even back in the day, Disney. I mean, the whole reason why Disneyland and a Disney World exists is word of mouth. Disney didn't promote it. I mean, those theme parks are huge today because of word of mouth.
Cartoons were their promotions, whether you think that or not.
Well, no, they were, but they also weren't. I mean, you did not see Disneyland in the background of all those cartoons. But those cartoons absolutely did set the cultural sort of framework down for people to go, I'd love to go to that reality or non-reality.
Yeah.
And that was the theme park. So, no, you're right. But, I mean, it was also, a significant portion of that was people going for the first time, going back and saying, oh, my God, I had the most amazing experience when I went to Disneyland. And this is what I did. And that's really what built it up, as much as the films, if not more.
But yeah, to bring it back to beer though, I was reading a really, really good article about how beer rating sites have made a big difference in the craft beer world, and it can even it can help a brewery. It can. There was one example that they gave in the article that there was a brewery that they had to jump from their 1-year plan to their 5-year plan within 6 months because not Beer Advocate, but what's the other one? Rate Beer put them as their #1 brewery of whatever in 2013 or whatever, and they were bombarded by people who had flocked to them because of this, and they were like, this is great and all, but we don't have the capacity yet, so they had to jump ahead so far in their business plan that it was basically affected by word of mouth on the internet, and then there's other breweries that have been really hurt and really damaged because there's people who just want to be trolls and say this beer that they put all their heart and soul into and work very hard to put together, and some uneducated beer drinker who maybe doesn't like the same beers as everyone else, but they were able to say, hey, this is infected, and not having any idea what the beer's supposed to taste like and saying it's infected, it perpetuated
they infected the sour.
Yeah, and but that sort of a rumor can spread so fast on Beer Advocate forums and things like that it literally squashed this one beer that was super good according to the brewery, and they said there was nothing wrong with it, there was no infection, but because of one person saying it at first, saying this is infected, not knowing what the intention of the flavors were supposed to be, because the person has no idea what they're talking about, that beer just didn't sell because people decided, I'm not buying that because it's an infected batch. And it was it was really interesting article. It was kind of sad in some ways, but it really solidified my opinion, because I don't do beer reviews. anymore. I started doing them on this channel for a while, on my YouTube channel, and I decided, like, I don't like the same beers as everyone in this world, and they don't like the same ones I do, so I'm just going to keep it to myself. I like to keep track of the beers that I drink on Untappd when I can remember to do it, but I don't put a rating. I don't even say anything on there. I just, like, tally it just to make sure I remember, I had this beer. But otherwise...
Beer is too subjective,
Yeah.
So... You're absolutely right. Something like that could certainly make or break a brewery or a brewery's beer. I've certainly seen it with my own beer, and we've seen huge upticks. Someone writes a blog post like, "Wow, this beer is incredible." Suddenly, we've got like 50 people in the tap room the next day. That's happened, and that's an interesting thought. And ever since I've been in the industry, I'm like, wow, I can see how much power that holds. And I stopped rating beers on Untappd. And, I'll still describe the beer and what I think about it and all that, but I won't be negative or positive about it. It'll just be, this is my thought on it. Because breweries will read that shit. So put some thought into your Untappd posts, people. I can take that and make my beer better from it. I have done that before, where people will use Untappd and say this about a beer I created, and I'll be like, hey, that's cool. Maybe I should add this to this, or use these type of hops. I'm definitely going to try that out, and it's worked for us. So it's kind of a collaboration between community and brewery when used correctly, but it can be abused, and it does. Become a problem and sometimes a good thing. Just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. Well, and it depends on how you use it too. I mean, this actually goes right back to episode 100 of this show when we pulled out this whatever beers we had for that, and I think it was, I don't know if it was cellared beers, but I do remember that I had a beer that was done in my basement from Three Floyds that I'd spent a bit of money on, and I had gone into Beer Advocate and I'd seen numerous charges that it had been infected, and this was barrel aged Moloko, which it turned out to be a fantastic beer, but it put the fear in God in me, because it's like you'd spent a fair amount of your coin on this beer, and you're wondering now, what should I do with it? Is it going to blow up on me? Is it is it going to poison me, or is this? They're just a bunch of assholes. It turned out lots of assholes, but I mean, it affects the whole community.
It's not just assholes. They're just uneducated assholes. There's so many new people to beer that think that.
There are some of them that are. You're right. Some of them are uneducated, but I think some of them are out for blood. Some of them are looking at Three Floyds and saying, "You fuckers, everybody likes you. I'm taking you down a peg because I fucking don't think you deserve it." You don't deserve it.
There are so many Three Floyds haters. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And also, it's almost a joke. I haven't been on Beer Advocate in probably, I don't know how many years, probably 5 years. But I remember back when I was on it, it was like always a joke. It was the joke that Three Floyds is closing, or Three Floyds, like everyone was like, blah, 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 what about Three Floyds, on Dark Lord Day? And they're like, I thought they were closing, LOL. Like everyone just like made that joke because like that started on Beer Advocate. Like there was just a stupid little rumor, had no validity to it at all.
Yep. It's either that or they're sacrificing children for their beer and you should avoid them, or Dark Lord just isn't all that, which I kind of agree with, but that's simply after tasting it.
I don't agree. You have to have an aged. I mean, a 5-year-old Dark Lord is.
I think they're perfect at 3, but yeah, no, I'd be interested to do that experiment again.
I'm waiting to do a 10-year vertical one day. I'm just waiting for that.
I'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be at my store, I'm sure, by that time. So come on up to Michigan. Come on up to Michigan.
Yeah, I got family there. I can do that.
Oh shit! What was I gonna say though? Oh, Three Floyds. I just saw that they posted that their distillery's looking like it's ready to go into. It's ready to be turned on. Like it looks like they got everything built up and everything. The signs there, and
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it should be interesting because I didn't go to Dark Lord Day this year, so I didn't even see like the beginnings of the construction. I don't even know if it had started at that point, but looks like it's ready to go.
Oh yeah, no, it hadn't. I remember going over there. Was it last year? No, it was earlier this year because I picked up some yum yum when we went on our bike and brew this year. So I was on the way over to Grand Rapids, and they were, what was that? That was summer. Yeah, you could tell. Oh.
You saw that, huh?
Yes. Yeah. You need a napkin?
I was like, I wonder if that caught on the camera or not. Oh, that's awesome.
But
Your yum yum?
I can't now. Sorry. No, it was you looked over at the complex and it was going up in a hurry. But they're not just doing that. I mean, they've got a canning line or a bottling line. I forget which it is. I think but I know it's from Germany because they keep on having videos. Or they did over like the last 9 months of them going over and checking in on the bottling or canning line that they want to put in. But it's not just going to be the distillery. They've got a lot of stuff going on over there, I think. And I think you see that going into the Chicago market now because we're getting Three Floyds beers a little more regularly than we used to.
Yeah, I see the yum yum all the time at the store that I go to by my house. So
yeah,
not my favorite. It's good. It's just and even the Zombie Dust. I love that beer. It's really good. But for like $17 to $20 a 6-pack, I'm not.
No.
I'd almost rather drive over the border into Michigan to get. What's the one that I always compared? The Odd Side Ales. They're pale.
Oh yeah, the Citra Pale.
Yeah,
that
thing's is first of all, that's the closest to Zombie Dust I've ever tasted, and it's not expensive at all, and it's amazing.
I was gonna say it does not lose a beat to Zombie Dust. That is a fantastic beer, and they're a fantastic brewery too. I want to go there. I want to go there now.
I'm gonna go get another beer because I cashed this thing. This thing is delicious. I highly recommend this one. I'm not reviewing this, guys, or anything like that, but I'm saying that I really like this beer.
I'll review it right here, right now. That Prairie Hop was the first beer I ever had from Prairie. All right, my roommate brought it down before they started distribution into Texas. Now these guys are really good friends with Just King, another sour beer place in Texas, and they're pretty well known. But Prairie, I haven't had a single bad beer from them. I can take any of their beers, even if it's one that they just created, I've never had it before, and you don't tell me what it is. I'll take a sip, and I could tell you that's Prairie. That's how interesting. That is how distinct all of their beers are. They make these really interesting farmhouse ales that they're just so fantastic, and I love the way they do them.
That almost sounds like a yeast strain thing. Then it's like, do you think that it's because they have a really specific yeast strain that is you can identify?
They have a very, very unique way that they do their beers, and it has to do with the type of culture of yeast and bacteria that they use. Mm-hmm. Not unlike Jester King down here in Texas, and I think that's why they collaborate so often. And I enjoy their beers all the time. Really good stuff.
What are we talking about?
No, he's beginning to get into his Tweety birds of love around his head about Jester King too. He goes,
I saw you post a picture.
I was going to say because and I'm not saying that's not well deserved. Ooh. I'm just saying it's like I understand that halo of Tweety birds.
And every time you say it, all I think is Chicago because they're from Chicago. They both worked at the West Lakeview Liquors, and the concept of Jester King was birthed at Dark Lord Day. So
and I'm so glad they made it down here.
No, we're gonna I was gonna say that means that Skylar needs to come up here. He can just bring the beer in his car. He doesn't have to trade, and then the circle will be complete.
Yeah, regardless, I can send you some really good stuff from here in exchange for some Jester King, because I haven't. The only thing I've had was the black metal.
So can I.
Oh, what is that?
This is the Resurrection IPA from Four Hands Brewing in St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
This is first of all of their cans are amazing.
Yeah, that's really good artwork.
Their artwork, everything they do on their cans is amazing. Not only that, but because I actually went to a live podcast recording of them interviewed on Good Beer Hunting, the one I keep talking about, and they were talking about how they specifically do this on every one of their cans. They actually have like a food pairing listed on here to tell you like what foods to eat with each beer, so that. And they do this strategically because when they sell their beers in like supermarkets or grocery stores, they have their way of kind of upselling their customers, by saying, oh yeah, so if you're getting this beer, you should buy this meat or this whatever, and it kind of helps collaborate with with their customers or the retailers, I should say, that sell their beers. So I was like, that is freaking smart. And they're like, we purposely do that on every can for every beer that we put out. So this beer is fantastic, Dan. If you get your hands on it, I highly recommend. Because Four Hands, they're chocolate.
I could probably get my hands on that.
You can. They're everywhere. They're at every Binny's that are in this area. So. But their chocolate milk stout, it's literally like
I've had that. That is.
It's like alcoholic chocolate milk. It's fucking delicious. It's so good.
Yes, it is.
And that comes in bomb resort cans too. Like they do it in 4-packs. It's awesome. But I picked up that, and I got the Lizard King Pale Ale from Pipeworks that they just started canning. And
I saw a picture that someone posted on Google Plus. It looked pretty cool.
Dude, it's good. It's so good. Yeah, I had one yesterday. It's legit. And I was telling Dan, I'm like, and I'm a Doors fan, so
yep,
win-win. I love the Lizard King. It's a good beer. But it's a really good beer. But yeah, this is nice, man. I finished that Prairie, and I had to go with another one.
I'm drinking my EHB, which is.
Yeah, I knew you had another. You grabbed another one. What do you got there?
Yeah, this is my homebrew. This is an EHB, which is an excessively hopped bitter. It started life as an ESB, and it got Beersmith, as I like to affectionately call it. So it got downgraded gravity-wise to a premium bitter, and it actually tastes pretty good. But I can already tell I used way too much Munich malt. It's got to be more caramely. I was really intentionally trying to make it a malty beer and a malt forward beer, and I hit the wrong balance. But that's all right, and because it's still drinkable and it's still enjoyable, and the yeast was fun too. It's got a nice stone fruit flavor in the esters to it. It's Yorkshire Y yeast. The Yorkshire.
That's a really good one for an ESB.
Yeah, I love that yeast. I do. A little warm.
With Maris Otter, use Maris Otter as pretty much.
I used Maris Otter, my friend.
Boom, you've got yourself a badass ESB that I want to try.
You might want to try this, because this is not a bad drinking beer. I mean, for a mistake, I will stand by it. But it's one of those things where, you think you're doing one thing and something else happens, and you just kind of have to trust it. And you just say, I will let that carbonate in the bottle and hope for the best. And the best happens, so I'm good. But yeah, it's anyway, I'm sorry. It's my EHP.
Nice. I'll have to try that as well. It's a little easier for me to get my hand on some. I was going to pull up the Wheel This Side website that I usually use to spin the wheel on the iPad, because I don't have the iPad. My wife is taking care of the baby, and she needs to be entertained. Oh, here she is bringing it for me. But I was going to say we could.
Thank you.
You're getting applause on you. But I was going to say, let's just pick it. What do we want to drink next?
What do we want to do?
All right.
Because we're on the cusp of Oktoberfest, so that's an option. Pumpkin beers are readily available as of like 3 weeks ago.
Unfortunately,
I'm already tired of them. I haven't even had one.
No, I haven't either.
Me neither. I'm waiting to get some pumpkins so I can make one.
Don't you just want to use like canned pumpkin?
Fuck that.
Damn straight.
So what do we want to do? Do we want to kind of go with what's coming up, or is it still too early to jump into that? I mean, Oktoberfest is officially what, in like 3 days, or yeah.
No.
I was gonna say I'm going to an Oktoberfest party on Saturday, so that's
We can do
probably
an
not.
Oktoberfest, or we are kind of on the cusp of changing seasons.
Yes.
Maybe it's a saison type of deal.
Okay, then I am already P-Dub's Citrus Saison is mine. You've been shut out.
That's because you've already bought it.
No, I haven't, but I will.
That's funny. All right, I won't get the Pipeworks one then. I've got a couple in mind already that I had.
There are a lot of good ones.
What did I just had one. I want to say I just had a really good one. Can't remember. But yeah, let's do saisons then.
All right.
It's probably one of my favorite styles. I know Mike Morosky from Boston will probably jump on that if I let him know that he could just grab something from Trillium, because he actually texted me last week. He was in line. He was like 25 minutes, or I can't remember if he said he was 25 minutes early or if he was 25 people in line, deep in line for some like release that they had over at Trillium. So. And then we were gonna do the show, but
I still have Trillium beer in my basement.
Dude, drink that.
No. It's an Imperial Stout.
Really? I didn't.
Yes.
What is that one called? Because I don't even remember them doing a stout.
Oh, it's either Night and Day or Day and Night. They had actually 2 series, each being the other, you know, the reverse of the other, and I want to say it was. Night and maybe it was Day and Night. I could go get the bottle, but I'm not going to. No, but it bottle share.
Yeah,
I can do that.
I know we need to, because I have some stuff that's kind of getting old enough, and I need to add some things. I just I picked up an old numbskull from AleSmith that just started distributing here in Chicago, and
Yep.
I know I want to put some of those in the cellar, but I threw this one in the fridge because I just gotta drink it. I can't not drink a good barley wine. It's just, I think I want to declare it as my favorite style, but I just can't, because I just don't have a favorite. There's just too many good beers out there.
I will say that Grand Teton had a Christmas sale that they put out, I think, in 2012. I found a lot on clearance recently, and I was like,
really?
Yeah, I will let that shelf turd be the gem of my fridge. For
Nice.
$6.99 a bottle for a large format bottle. Oh yeah. So yeah, they're out there.
Dude, Christmas ales. I was not aware that those are good celery beers until I started doing this show, and it was Zach Christofferson from Chain Reaction Brewing, who used to join us every once in a while. He's a little busy running his own brewery now too, but he does share a beer on Tuesdays still, it looks like. And I was mentioning, I was like, yeah, I think it was like, because I think we've been doing the show for like 2 years now, and he was like, I was telling him, I'm like, I've got a Goose Island 2005 Christmas ale. He's like, dude, open that. He's like, those are the best to age. He's like, that's almost 10 years old. He's like, drink that shit. And I think I opened it on like the first episode of Whatcha Drinking, either the first or the second, when it was just like me and Kevin. And it was so good. Christmas ales, they are really good those are good aging beers. So that I'm excited for you to have those. Where'd you buy those at?
That was actually local. That was where was that? That was at Armanetti's in Mundelein. So right at 83 and Town Line Road, which would be 60. So not far to go.
I didn't know there was an Armanetti's over there.
Oh yeah, and they're not. I think there were like 2 left when I bought them, and that was about a week or a week and a half ago. But yeah, I mean, really, I am beginning to, especially in this day and age of bottle prices going up, getting to the point where it's sort of like you've got to find the hidden gems, you know. And it's kind of like with wine not too long ago. Wine got to a point where it got so priced up, so crazy, the price points just kept going up and up, that you had to kind of pick your battles. And beer is beginning to get that way, especially in the barrel-aged end and the cellaring end, or what people perceive as the cellaring end. Because I think that the cellaring beers people are beginning to perceive as being all barrel-aged. That's not true. It's not all about barrel-aged beers. So there are a lot of
delicious.
Yeah, well, they are, but as a result, I think you see a lot of people are going like, oh, that is a barley wine that has no barrel aging. I will not touch it. Or, you know, oh, that is a Russian Imperial Stout that has not touched the warm embrace of a barrel.
I like how that's automatically French people that are saying.
Okay, so there may be a really bad component going on there. I'm not going to dispute that, but yeah.
Speaking of barrel-aged beers, we're going to come to a close, but I wanted to mention that keep an eye out on Goose Island's web or YouTube page. They're going to be releasing. I know there's a trailer or 2, but if you're interested, I should say, if you're interested in the story of Bourbon County Stout, they're doing, I forget it, I think it's like a 9-part series that they're going to start releasing sections of it, but they're, the guy that, Ken Huntemeter from Hopcast, he works at Goose Island, and he's in charge of like a lot of their YouTube videos and the filming of their events and stuff like that. He's been working on this documentary on Bourbon County Stout for a while, and I think they're supposed to release it on their YouTube page in these parts, but I saw him posting something about, you know, some sort of a viewing party here and there, so I think it's coming out soon, and I just saw that they released a new trailer on there, but I'm really interested in that because they kind of, Goose Island kind of birthed, you know, barrel aging beers within the craft beer industry, so it's kind of, I'm very interested to see this. It's a great beer, so just wanted to throw it out there in case you guys were interested, or anyone that watches, you know, later on after this video goes up, if you're interested, check that out.
Nice.
So okay, we'll be drinking saisons next week. Then I'll make sure I post it for the invites to go out there. Skylar, you look happy. I just saw that big old smile come on.
One of my favorite styles. So.
I agree. Me too. It's awesome. So, all right, cool. We will see you guys next week. I appreciate you jumping on, and thanks for the patience of waiting until we were able to get a little bit less crazy around here, so we can do this. So, we'll be back with episode 108 next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and cheers. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Cheers.